Alien Dating, What Could Possibly Go Wrong? By Jansen Davies. Chapter 1. First contact was a swipe right. The year was 2062. Jennifer Thomas didn't believe in aliens. Not in the they don't exist way, more in the if they do, they'd ghost you after one date and leave crop circles shaped like your insecurities way. She worked nights at the San Dimas Interstellar Observatory, polishing lenses so massive they could spot a sneeze on Saturn. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave her time to think. Mostly about how her last date had ended with a man explaining cryptocurrency using sock puppets. So when Cosmic Cupid launched its interspecies dating beta, Jennifer signed up out of boredom and spite. Her first match was Flarnak of Tirillia. His profile photo was textbook alien, smooth gray skin, elongated limbs, obsidian eyes the size of espresso saucers. He wore a shimmering silver tunic and held a bouquet of what looked like sentient tulips. His bio read, Ambassador of Emotional Transparency, Collector of Terran Idioms, seeks partner for shared existential unraveling. Jennifer swiped right because she liked the phrase existential unraveling. It felt honest. They agreed to meet at the Encounter, a trendy restaurant shaped like a starship and staffed by sentient robots. Jennifer arrived early, wearing her best anti-static summer dress and a necklace made from telescope screws. She ordered a drink called the Event Horizon and tried not to perspire. Flarnak marched in precisely on time, offering her a bouquet of flowers exactly like the ones in his dating profile. "You are Jennifer Thomas," he said, voice like a dial-up modem wrapped in velvet. "You're very punctual," she replied. "I do not experience time linearly," he said, "but I respect your customs." He then sat down at the table across from her. Their first date was a disaster in 12 dimensions. Flarnak tried to compliment her by saying her cranial symmetry was statistically pleasing. Jennifer accidentally insulted his species by asking if he was cold-blooded. The bartender misread Flarnak's species and served him a drink that temporarily turned his skin plaid. Still, something clicked. Maybe it was the way Flarnak listened, really listened. As Jennifer described the heartbreak of polishing lenses, no one looked through anymore. Or maybe it was the moment he offered her a small cube of compressed starlight and said, "This reminds me of your emotional density." Jennifer didn't know if it was attraction, but it was weird, and weird felt like a good place to start. Chapter 2. The second date was mostly silence. Jennifer didn't expect a follow-up message, not after the plaid skin incident, the awkward compliments, or the moment she accidentally mistook Flarnak's ceremonial sash for a napkin and used it to wipe her mouth. But 2 days later, as she was buffing the primary lens of the observatory's deep sky array, her comms unit pinged. Flarnak of Tirillia. "I have been contemplating your laughter. It echoes in my memory like solar wind through a hollow moon. Would you like to meet again?" Jennifer stared at the message, then at her reflection in the lens, distorted, upside down, and faintly green from the anti-glare coating. She wasn't sure if she was flattered or being studied like a specimen. Maybe both. She typed back, "Sure, but no gravity-neutral restaurants this time. I like my drinks to stay in the glass." They met at a terrestrial cafe called the Red Dwarf, a retro diner with chrome booths and a menu that proudly advertised 99% Earth-sourced ingredients. Flarnak arrived in a trench coat and wide-brimmed hat, which only made him look more like an alien trying to pass as human detective. Jennifer raised an eyebrow. "You look like you're hiding from the Maltese Falcon." "I was advised to blend," Flarnak said, removing the hat to reveal his smooth gray dome. "Was this incorrect?" "No," she said, smiling. "It's adorable." They sat in a booth by the window. Flarnak ordered a glass of hydrogen peroxide and a bowl of warm pebbles. Jennifer got fries and a milkshake. They talked about safe topics, weather patterns, telescope maintenance, the ethics of time travel. Flarnak asked questions like, "Do you often feel lonely while polishing lenses?" And, "Is it true that humans cry when they see Saturn's rings?" Jennifer found herself answering honestly. "Yes," she said, "but not because they're sad. It's more like, the universe is too big to hold in your chest, so it leaks out your eyes." Flarnak blinked slowly. "That is a beautiful malfunction." They didn't touch. No awkward hand-holding, no accidental brushes. Just two beings sitting across from each other, trying to translate the untranslatable. When the check came, Flarnak stared at it like it was a riddle. "I do not understand this currency," he said. "What is a gratuity?" "It's a tip," Jennifer said. "A way to say thank you." Flarnak nodded solemnly. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small, glowing orb. "This is a memory of my first sunrise. I offer it in gratitude." The waitress screamed. Jennifer paid in cash. Later, as they stood outside under the stars, Flarnak looked up. "Your sky is cluttered," he said, "but charming." Jennifer followed his gaze. Satellites blinked like confused fireflies. A plane cut a line through Orion's belt. "Yeah," she said, "it's a mess, but it's ours." Flarnak turned to her. "May I walk you home?" Jennifer hesitated, not because she didn't want to, but because she did. And that was new. "Sure," she said, "but no teleporting. I want to take the long way." They walked in silence, side by side. No declarations, no sparks. Just the slow, strange gravity of something beginning. Chapter 3. Love. Actually, he's quoting everything. Jennifer had noticed a shift. Flarnak had always been strange. He once complimented her bone density and offered her a cube shaped like a pyramid. But lately, he'd become oddly theatrical. It started with a message. "Flarnak of Tirillia. You make me want to be a better alien." Terran film. As good as it gets. Jennifer blinked. She reread the line. Then she Googled it. "Oh no," she whispered. "He's discovered rom-coms." Their next date was a walk through the San Dimas Arboretum, a place known for its genetically modified roses and occasional time anomalies. Flarnak arrived wearing a scarf and holding a box of Martian chocolates that whispered compliments in Klingon. "You look radiant," he said, "like the moonlight in Sleepless in Seattle." Jennifer squinted. "Are you quoting movies?" Flarnak tilted his head. "I have been studying Terran courtship rituals. Your species appears to favor declarations made in rainstorms, airports, and moments of comedic misunderstanding." Jennifer laughed. "You've been binge-watching rom-coms." "I have consumed 147.3 hours of romantic cinema," he said proudly. "I now understand the importance of grand gestures, unresolved sexual tension, and the phrase, 'You had me at hello.'" Jennifer groaned. "Flarnak, you don't have to perform romance. You just have to show up." "I am here," he said, "and I brought a music replicator." He pulled it from his coat and held it over his head. It played a distorted version of "In Your Eyes," except in Tirillia harmonics, which sounded like whales mating. A nearby squirrel passed out. Later, over coffee at the observatory's break room, Jennifer confronted him. "Why the rom-com obsession?" she asked. Flarnak stirred his drink, liquid nitrogen with a splash of helium extract. "I do not understand your emotional architecture," he said, "but these films offer a blueprint. They teach me how to love you." Jennifer softened. "They're fiction, Flarnak. Messy, beautiful fiction. But love isn't a montage. It's showing up when the telescope jams. It's listening when I rant about lens polishers unionizing." Flarnak nodded slowly. "Then I will stop quoting. Except one." He leaned in, voice low. I think I'd miss you even if we'd never met. The wedding date. Jennifer blinked. Okay, that one's allowed. They sat in silence, sipping their drinks. Outside, the stars blinked like they were in on the joke. Chapter 4. Sarcasm is not a mating call. Jennifer hadn't planned to introduce Flarnak to her friends. Not yet. Not until she was sure he wouldn't accidentally vaporize someone for interrupting a sentence. But then came movie night. Every Thursday, her friend group gathered in her apartment to eat questionable snacks and yell at bad sci-fi films. It was sacred. It was chaotic. It was the one place Jennifer could be herself, without explaining why she hated Interstellar or cried during Wall-E. So when Flarnak asked, "May I observe your social rituals?" she hesitated. "They're not rituals," she said. "They're just people. Loud, sarcastic people." "I am prepared," he replied, holding up a notepad labeled Terran Humor. Phase 1. The night began with Space Vampires 4, Blood Nebula. Jennifer's friends, Mary, Larry, and Oscar, were already half a bottle of wine in when Flarnak arrived. He bowed deeply. "Greetings, fellow carbon-based life forms. I bring fermented root vegetables and a willingness to engage in your primitive bonding customs." Mary blinked. "Is he role-playing?" Jennifer sighed. "No, he's just like this." They settled in. Flarnak sat rigidly on the edge of the couch, taking notes every time someone laughed. When Mary sarcastically said, "Oh, great, another space princess with amnesia." "So original," Flarnak perked up. "You admire her memory loss?" he asked. "Fascinating. On Tirillia, we induce amnesia as a form of courtship." Larry snorted. "We call that roofies here on Earth." Flarnak turned to Jennifer. "Should I begin forgetting things to demonstrate affection?" "No," she said quickly. "Please don't." Halfway through the movie, Oscar made a joke about the alien villain's phallic spaceship. Flarnak took it as a sincere compliment. "Indeed," he said, "our vessels are designed to evoke primal awe. Would you like to see a hologram of mine?" He projected a shimmering image into the air. It was unmistakably suggestive. Mary choked on her popcorn. "Oh my God, it's anatomically correct." "It is also a flute," Flarnak added helpfully, "for ceremonial duets." Jennifer buried her face in a pillow. Flarnak maybe toned down the cultural exchange. After the movie, while her friends debated whether the vampire queen's wings were CGI or just bad puppetry, Jennifer pulled Flarnak into the kitchen. "You okay?" she asked. "I am uncertain," he said. "Your friends emit conflicting signals. One moment they mock, the next they laugh. I attempted to mirror their tone, but I fear I may have initiated a mating challenge with the one called Larry." Jennifer blinked. "What did you say to him?" "I told him his sarcasm was arousingly hostile and that I admired his emotional armor." Jennifer groaned. "Okay. First of all, thank you for not vaporizing anyone. Second, sarcasm is not a mating call. It's just how we cope with the crushing weight of existence." Flarnak nodded solemnly. "Ah, like screaming into the void, but with punchlines." "Exactly." Later, as the guests left and the credits rolled, Mary pulled Jennifer aside. "He's weird," she said, "but he listens. Like, really listens." Jennifer smiled. "Yeah, he's trying." She turned to find Flarnak carefully folding the throw blanket, his long fingers moving with ceremonial precision. "Did I pass the trial?" he asked. Jennifer laughed. "You didn't explode. That's a win." They stood in the doorway, the night quiet around them. "I like your friends," Flarnak said. "They are chaotic but loyal." "Like plasma wolves," Jennifer leaned against the frame. "You're not so bad yourself." Flarnak tilted his head. Is that sarcasm? No, she said. That's me. Being sincere. He smiled, at least she thought it was a smile. It was hard to tell with no lips, but it felt like a beginning. Chapter 5. Form X42, B and the Emotional Disclosure Index. Jennifer didn't expect dating an alien to involve paperwork, but when Flarnak casually mentioned that their relationship had reached phase 2 of emotional entanglement, she found herself staring at a glowing clipboard labeled Form X42B, Declaration of Interspecies, Romantic Intent. What is this? She asked. A preliminary document, Flarnak said, required by the Galactic Council for all cross-species unions. It ensures mutual consent, emotional transparency, and compatibility across biochemical thresholds. Jennifer flipped through the pages. This asks if I've ever weaponized irony during intimacy. That is a common Terran behavior, Flarnak said. We must assess its impact. The form was 47 pages long and written in a mix of bureaucratic English, Tirillia pictoglyphs, and something that looked suspiciously like interpretive dance notation. Section 12 required a soul scan, which Jennifer refused on principle. I'm not letting a government entity analyze my emotional architecture, she said. I barely understand it myself. Flarnak nodded solemnly. Then we shall proceed with the Emotional Disclosure Index. What's that? He pulled out a small orb. It will ask you questions. You must answer truthfully. If you lie, it will emit a sound like disappointed wind chimes. The orb hovered between them. Question 1. Have you ever pretended to be asleep to avoid emotional intimacy? Jennifer blinked. Is this normal? Flarnak nodded. It is calibrated for Terran neuroses. She sighed. Yes, once, during a breakup. He cried. I faked a nap. The orb chimed approvingly. Question 2. Do you believe love is a choice, a chemical reaction, or a cosmic accident? Jennifer hesitated. All three, depending on the day. The orb spun, then emitted a sound like a satisfied sigh. Question 3. Would you sacrifice your favorite memory to protect Flarnak from existential collapse? Jennifer stared. That's a lot. Flarnak leaned in. You may decline, but it will affect our compatibility score. Jennifer thought of her favorite memory, lying on the observatory roof, watching a meteor shower with her late grandmother, who whispered, The stars don't care if you're lonely. But I do. She looked at Flarnak. His eyes were wide, unreadable, but somehow hopeful. I'd sacrifice it, she said quietly. The orb pulsed, then vanished. Flarnak reached out, his fingers hovering near hers. You are compatible, he said. Emotionally volatile, but sincere. Jennifer laughed. That's basically my dating profile. They sat in silence, the form forgotten, the stars blinking overhead like bureaucrats on break. Jennifer didn't know what Phase 3 involved, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid to find out. Chapter 6. The Anniversary That Already Happened. Jennifer didn't expect flowers, or a gift, or even a romantic gesture involving bioluminescent spores. But she did expect Flarnak to remember the date. It had been exactly 1 Terran month since their first official date, the one with the whispering tulips and the music replicator. She'd marked it on her calendar with a tiny alien emoji and a note that said, Don't overthink this. Flarnak, however, had not marked anything. When she brought it up over dinner, spaghetti for her, a bowl of magnetic dust for him, he blinked slowly. I celebrated our anniversary last week, he said. Jennifer froze. Last week? Yes, in a parallel timeline. It was beautiful. You wore a cloak made of starlight and recited poetry to a sentient glacier. Jennifer stared. Flarnak, that's not this timeline. I know, he said, but the emotional resonance was identical. They argued, not loudly, not dramatically, but in the quiet, aching way that people do when they're trying to translate disappointment into something less sharp. You can't just skip the present, Jennifer said. You can't pre-celebrate something in a dimension I don't live in. Flarnak tilted his head. I thought it would be romantic. Like a surprise party, but with quantum sincerity. Jennifer rubbed her temples. I need you to be here. In this moment, with this version of me. Flarnak was silent. Then he split, literally. 3 versions of him shimmered into existence, one apologetic, one defensive, and one poetic. I am sorry, said the first. I misunderstood your expectations. You are being temporally rigid, said the second. Linear time is a cultural construct. I wrote you a sonnet, said the third. It begins with the phrase, your love is a gravity well. Jennifer sighed. Put yourselves back together. Please. They merged with a soft hum. Later, as they sat on the observatory roof, Jennifer stared at the stars and tried to make sense of it. I don't need grand gestures, she said. I just need you to show up, not in a parallel version of me, not in a poetic metaphor, just here. Flarnak nodded. I am learning. Your emotional architecture is complex, but beautiful. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small cube. This is a memory of the moment I first understood your sarcasm was a defense mechanism. I offer it to you. Jennifer took the cube. It pulsed gently in her hand. Thanks, she said, but next time just bring flowers. Flarnak smiled. At least she thought he did. But it felt like progress. Chapter 7. Therapy, Tequila, and Telepathy. The fight hadn't been dramatic. No shouting, no storming out. Just a quiet, mutual realization that something wasn't sinking. Jennifer wanted presence. Flarnak wanted resonance. And somewhere between her sarcasm and his multi-dimensional sincerity, they'd hit a wall. So they did what any emotionally confused couple would do. They went to therapy. Specifically, the Third Eye Lounge, a dive bar with neon signage that read, We serve spirits and spirit guidance. The bartender, Roxy, was a former interstellar mixologist turned telephone psychic. She offered couples counseling on Tuesdays, half-price margaritas included. Roxy had a voice like gravel and a gaze that could read your childhood trauma in 3 seconds flat. You two look like a bad metaphor waiting to happen, she said, pouring Jennifer a drink called the emotional hangover. What's the issue? Jennifer hesitated. He experiences time like a Mobius strip. I want him to remember anniversaries in the same dimension I do. Flarnak nodded. She weaponizes irony. I misinterpret it as mating readiness. Roxy lit a candle shaped like a screaming moon. Classic case of cross-species emotional misalignment. She pulled out a deck of cards, half tarot, half bureaucratic forms, and began shuffling. Let's start with a compatibility reading, she said. Pick a card. Jennifer drew one labeled The Entangled Heart. Flarnak's card was The Echo of Regret. Roxy raised an eyebrow. Yikes, she said. You two are either doomed or mythic soulmates. Let's dig deeper. She asked questions while mixing drinks. Jennifer, when was the last time you felt safe in silence? Flarnak, do you understand the difference between emotional vulnerability and poetic disclosure? Jennifer admitted she often filled quiet moments with jokes because she feared being misunderstood. Flarnak confessed he sometimes quoted rom-coms because he didn't know how to express affection without a script. Roxy nodded. You're both hiding behind performance. One with irony, one with metaphor. Try honesty. It's cheaper than therapy." She handed them a shot of truth serum, mostly tequila with a splash of psychic lime. Jennifer took hers. "I'm scared you'll leave when I stop being interesting." Flarnak drank his. "I fear you'll leave when I stop being mysterious." Roxy clapped. "There it is. The raw stuff. Now kiss or cry. Or both." They didn't kiss. Not yet. But they sat in silence, holding hands, letting the candle flicker between them. Roxy leaned on the bar. "You two are weird. But weird can work. Just stop trying to be perfect. Be present." Flarnak nodded. "I will attempt imperfection." Jennifer smiled. "I'll try sincerity, even when it's awkward." Roxy poured herself a drink. "Good. Now get out of my bar. I've got a call with a Martian divorcee who thinks her ex is haunting her blender." Chapter 8. Cosplay, Confusion, and a Ceremony in Aisle 7. Jennifer had never been to Galacticon before. It was billed as the largest interdimensional pop culture convergence in the Western Spiral Arm and featured everything from Vulcan speed dating to a panel on emotional vulnerability in sentient slime. But she hadn't come for the fandoms. She'd come for a wedding. Her college friend Cassie was marrying a guy who claimed to be half human, half cybernetic oracle. The ceremony was scheduled for 3 p.m. in Aisle 7, between the merch booth selling cursed plushies and the food court that served authentic Martian funnel cake. Flarnak insisted on attending. "I wish to observe Terran bonding rituals," he said. "Also, I have questions about your species' obsession with capes." They arrived in full chaos. Jennifer wore jeans and a hoodie. Flarnak wore his usual shimmering tunic and ceremonial sash, now dry-cleaned after the napkin incident. Within seconds, 3 people asked for selfies. "Your prosthetics are amazing," said a woman dressed as a steampunk mermaid. "Is that latex or animatronic?" asked a guy in a cardboard mech suit. Flarnak blinked. "I am not in costume. I am Flarnak of Tirillia." The mech guy laughed. "Commitment to the bit. Respect." Jennifer sighed. "Just roll with it." The wedding was small but dramatic. Cassie wore a gown made of holographic silk that changed color based on emotional proximity. Her groom, Thurston, had a voice modulator that made his vows sound like they were being delivered by a haunted toaster. Flarnak watched intently, taking notes on a scroll made of compressed starlight. "They exchanged tokens of affection," he whispered, "and consumed fermented sugar." "Is this standard?" Jennifer nodded. "Pretty much." Flarnak frowned. "No soul scan? No compatibility orb?" "Nope. Just love. And maybe a prenup." After the ceremony, they wandered the convention floor. Flarnak was mistaken for a rebooted version of The Day the Earth Stood Still, a deep-cut character from Doctor Who, a gender-swapped version of the Silver Surfer. One vendor tried to sell him a limited edition empathy crystal, which Flarnak politely declined, saying, "I generate my own." Jennifer watched him navigate the chaos with quiet grace. He didn't correct anyone. He didn't argue. He just observed, absorbed, and occasionally asked questions like, "Why do so many Terrans dress as emotionally compromised robots?" Later, they sat on the convention balcony, watching cosplayers dance to a remix of the Star Wars Cantina theme. "I liked the ceremony," Flarnak said. "It was chaotic, but sincere." Jennifer nodded. "That's kind of our thing." Flarnak turned to her. "Would you ever marry me at a gathering like this?" Jennifer blinked. "You mean surrounded by people dressed as space wizards and anime pirates?" "Yes," he said. "It feels mythic." Jennifer laughed. "Maybe, if the funnel cake's good." Flarnak reached into his coat and pulled out a small ring made of folded light. "No pressure," he said. Just a placeholder for future resonance. Jennifer took it. It pulsed gently in her palm. She didn't say yes, not yet, but she didn't say no. Chapter 9. The Madness Between Timelines. Jennifer knew something was wrong when Flarnak stopped quoting rom-coms. He hadn't sent her a single poetic message in 3 days. No holographic sonnets, no memory cubes, no awkward metaphors comparing her emotional resilience to neutron stars. Instead, he'd gone silent. Not the usual contemplative silence. This was the kind of silence that made the observatory lights flicker and the telescope lenses hum with residual dread. She found him in his apartment, if you could call it that. It was more of a dimensional fold tucked behind a laundromat. Inside, the air shimmered with unstable gravity. Furniture floated. Time bent. Flarnak sat cross-legged in the center, surrounded by glowing glyphs and a bowl of what looked like screaming moss. "Flarnak?" she asked. He looked up. His eyes were darker than usual. Not sad, just ancient. "It has begun," he said. The Tirillia called it the time of madness. Every few cycles, their emotional architecture destabilized, memories unraveled, logic collapsed. They became raw, mythic versions of themselves, driven by instinct, ancestral echoes, and unresolved longing. "It is not illness," Flarnak had once explained. "It is sacred disintegration." Now Jennifer saw it firsthand. He spoke in riddles. He wept without tears. He tried to kiss her by projecting a memory of their first date into her mind. But it was distorted, looping, filled with alternate versions where she wore a crown of fire or never showed up at all. "I love you in every timeline," he said, "but I cannot hold on to this one." Jennifer felt her chest tighten. "I don't need every timeline," she said. "I just need this one." Flarnak shook his head. "I am not safe. I am becoming mythic." The breakup wasn't loud. It was ceremonial. Flarnak placed a cube in her hand. It pulsed with grief, longing, and a single word: wait. Jennifer placed it on the shelf beside her telescope. She didn't open it. She left without looking back. That night, the stars felt colder. She polished lenses until her fingers ached. She stared into the void and dared it to blink first. She told herself it was temporary, that he'd return when the madness passed. But part of her knew, some ruptures don't heal, they transform. And maybe that was the point. Chapter 10. The Spark That Didn't Return. It had been 3 weeks since the breakup. Jennifer had stopped checking her comms unit for glowing cubes. She'd stopped dreaming in Tirillia harmonics. She'd even stopped polishing the lens that once caught glimpses of Flarnak's homeworld, because it felt too much like nostalgia. Then, one evening, as she was logging telescope data, the observatory lights dimmed. A familiar hum filled the air. Flarnak appeared in the doorway, his tunic muted, his eyes softer than she remembered. "I have returned," he said. Jennifer didn't cry, she didn't smile, she just nodded. "I figured you would." They walked through the arboretum in silence. No movie quotes, no memory cubes, no metaphors. Just two beings who had once tried to love each other across species, timelines, and emotional architectures. "I am stable now," Flarnak said. "The madness has passed." Jennifer nodded. "I'm glad. I remember everything," he added. "Even the moment you chose presence over poetry." Jennifer looked up at the stars. "I remember that too." They sat on a bench beneath a genetically modified willow that whispered lullabies in 6 languages. "I thought the spark would return," Flarnak said, "but it feels different now." Jennifer sighed. "It's not gone. It's just changed, like starlight after it's traveled too far." Flarnak tilted his head. "You are still magic to me." "And you're still absurd," she said, smiling faintly. They laughed, quietly, respectfully. When they parted, there was no formality, no soul scan, no compatibility orb, no dramatic farewell, just a handshake, his fingers folding around hers like origami, and a shared understanding. "We are friends," Flarnak said, "in high places." Jennifer nodded. "Exactly." That night she returned to the observatory. She polished the lens. She logged the stars. She stared into the void and didn't flinch. She didn't feel broken. She felt recalibrated. And somewhere, in a distant quadrant of her heart, she knew love wasn't always a spark. Sometimes it was a constellation, briefly aligned, then drifting apart. And that was okay. Chapter 11. Two Navels and a Second Chance. The observatory was quiet again. No flickering lights, no memory cubes, no gravitational anomalies. Just the steady hum of data collection and the occasional clink of lens polishers finishing their shift. Jennifer had settled into the rhythm. She logged star patterns. She calibrated instruments. She stopped waiting for cosmic signs and started listening to the silence. That's when she noticed Dr. Fletcher Marsh. He'd always been there, 2 labs down, specializing in exoplanet atmospheres and sarcastic commentary. He wore mismatched socks, quoted Galaxy Quest during staff meetings, and once built a scale model of a Dyson sphere out of coffee stirrers. They started talking during a meteor shower. She made a joke about the stars being late. He replied, "Typical. You give them 1 billion years and they still ghost you." She laughed. It wasn't a spark. It was a flicker. Familiar. Warm. They began having lunch together, then coffee, then late-night telescope sessions where they debated whether black holes were just introverts with boundary issues. He never asked about Flarnak. She never asked about his past. Until one night, as they watched a comet skim the edge of the atmosphere, he said, "My last relationship was unconventional." Jennifer raised an eyebrow. "Alien?" "Worse," he said. "She had 2 navels." Jennifer blinked. "Like, biologically?" "And emotionally," he said. "One for vulnerability, one for secrets. I never knew which one had the most lint in it." Jennifer laughed so hard she spilled her tea. They didn't rush. There were no soul scans, no compatibility orbs, no ceremonial duets. Just shared jokes, quiet glances, and the slow realization that love didn't have to be mythic to be meaningful. One night, as they calibrated the telescope together, Fletcher turned to her. "You know," he said, "I think you're the kind of person who'd measure the lint in both navels." "Just to be sure." Jennifer smiled. "Only if they're emotionally symmetrical." And so it began, not with a bang, not with a cosmic rupture, but with laughter, with presence, with 2 people who understood that the universe was absurd and that love, at its best, was a shared joke told under the stars. The end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.